Hi everyone, now it's time for the English version of our conversion video. Today we will be converting iPhone 6 Plus to iPhone 8 Plus and restoring it. In order to convert, we need an old housing with old components that we're gonna use in the new housing. The new housing, which looks like 8 Plus. The new motherboard, which has no iCloud lock. The new camera, because the old housing doesn't have one. All brackets and screws, which are necessary to assemble the phone. The lower dock station. The fully assembled screen and LCD panel with speakers and home button. A new battery, of course. Tempered glass screen protector, of course. And everything looks like this. The full restore kit. So, as I said before, we will use this old housing in order to transfer all necessary components to the new housing, which looks like 8 Plus. So now we're starting to disassemble the old housing, and first we need to do is to remove the motherboard in order to get an access to all wires for switch and volume buttons. Disconnecting the NFC antenna. So now we're removing the metal plate for switch and volume buttons, connectors. Removing all the screws which are holding the motherboard on its place. Disconnecting all connectors. Disconnecting the Wi-Fi antenna from the motherboard. And now we are free to remove the motherboard from the old housing. So now it's time to remove all the components from the old housing in order to transfer them into new one. And we will start from the Wi-Fi antenna. So this is the Wi-Fi antenna. It is ready to be installed in the new housing. Also, we need to remove and transfer this small grounding clip for the housing. So grounding clip is removed. And also it's time to remove the antenna for mobile network signal. So you see it is very small and very fragile. And in order not to lose it, we will install them into the new housing. The mobile network antenna, the grounding clip, and Wi-Fi antenna. So now it's time to transfer these clips which are holding the screen, LCD screen panel on its position. So unfortunately the new housing doesn't have any, and then we need to transfer all these clips to the new housing. This is the very simple procedure, but very time consuming. So the same is with the second clip. And now we're starting to transfer the clips from the another side. Please be sure to install these clips correctly, because if you install them into the wrong position, you will need to reassemble an entire phone in order to install them properly. So please be very attentive and careful when installing these clips. Now it's time to transfer the SIM tray eject mechanism from the old housing to the new one. In our previous video I had the housing for iPhone. When we were restoring the iPhone 6, I have purchased the housing which had all components such as clips or SIM tray eject, but this housing doesn't have any component. So it takes more time to transfer all and old components from the old housing to the new one. But there is no way we can do it. Just to transfer all components from old housing to the new one. It is time consuming, but still there is no way out for us to do it anymore. Now we're transferring the Y compartment for the switch buttons from the old housing. Now it's time to remove the buttons, volume buttons, from the old housing. And now also we need to transfer the Y compartment for the switch button from the rear microphone and from the flash, So the procedure is the same. We are removing the metal bracket which holds rear microphone and flash on its place, and after we remove this metal bracket we are free to remove the wire compartment. Also we need to unscrew the holder for the switch button as well. And now carefully and gently we are removing the Y compartment for the switch button. Just do it very carefully, because if you rip these wires you need to change an entire compartment. So please extremely careful with this, it is very fragile. So as you can see, everything has been removed, and now we need to transfer all tiny components from old buttons to the new ones. The gasket, the bracket and the small metal spacer. So this is the hardest process of the whole repair, because as you can see I need to transfer all these tiny small components to the new buttons. So this is the rubber gasket. So this small metal bracket, as you can see these parts are very tiny. I'm showing you only the one button transfer, so but as you can guess, I have made this process for the whole three, and it was very time consuming, and the most difficult part is to transfer this small metal spacer. It is very difficult. It is very easy to lose it because it is very small, and it is was very difficult to install it on the new button. So I have used some glue in order to transfer this small component to the new button. As I remember, my hands were shaking when I was doing this, because I was afraid to lose this component. I didn't have an extra one, so it was very crucial not to lose this small metal spacer. Then, as you can see, it was very difficult to transfer this spacer into this new button, and I have to use the tweezers in order to put this spacer into the right position. Now, as you can see, I have managed to install this spacer into this button, and now, as you can see, I have made all transfer for all three buttons, and now our buttons are ready to be installed into the new housing. Also, I need to transfer this mute switcher from the wire compartment. As you can see, an old one doesn't fit the color of the new housing, so I need to transfer the one from the new housing. And now we are ready to install all the wires into the new housing, but before, of course, we need to place buttons in the correct position. Now installing the wire compartment for the wire for the volume buttons. Checking whether the buttons are clicking properly. Everything looks good. And now it's time to install the wire compartment for the switch button. First, of course, we place the button on its position. And now installing the wire compartment with a rear microphone and flash. Placing all the brackets back to their positions. And placing the rear microphone and the flash on their positions as well. Installing this metal plate which holds microphone and rear microphone and flash in order to avoid them from fall out from their positions. So, and now it's time to install the new camera because our old housing didn't have one. Aligning and placing camera on its position, and it looks very fine. Camera is installed properly on its position. Installing the NFC antenna, which is located very close to the camera module. And installing the metal bracket which holds the camera on its position. And pardon my English, guys, I didn't practice for a long time, so please don't judge me heavily. So it looks like that everything is aligned properly, and now it's time to install our motherboard, which has no iCloud lock. This is the 16 gig motherboard for iPhone 6 Plus. I have purchased it from AliExpress, and I hope that this motherboard will work, because sometimes motherboard can be broken, especially if you order something like this from AliExpress. Now it's time to install the motherboard on its position. So everything looks good. As we remember that we have a non-standard housing, and sometimes there are issues can occur with aligning and installing the components on their proper places. But in our case everything looks good. Now it's time to connect to all connectors to the motherboard, to connect the Wi-Fi antenna to the motherboard as well, and also connect the camera. Everything is connected now, and it's time to put all the screws in order to finalize the motherboard installation. Everything starts to take shape now. Now it looks more like phone already. And installing this metal bracket which holds connectors for the switch and volume buttons. So this is it. Now it's time to assemble the lower part of the housing and to transfer all the components. So first we need to remove this holder for the microphone. As we can see, an old microphone from an old dock station which was ripped. So, and now we have the new one. And of course we need to transfer all the covers for the microphone and for the speaker. I'm using the tweezers in order to remove these components. As you can see, it's very dirty, and before we install it into the new housing we need to clean them carefully. Now we're starting to assemble the lower part of the housing. Now it's time to install the dock station. So I need to cut this piece of plastic because we don't have the hole for the 3.5mm phone jack, because our new housing is stylized as it looks like for the 8 Plus, and 8 Plus doesn't have 3.5mm phone jack. So thus we need to remove this piece of plastic from the new dock station in order to be able to install this dock station into our new housing. So it's time to place our new dock station into the housing. So everything looks fine. Now we need to install all the screws back to their positions to hold the lower dock station in our new housing. Now we're installing the microphone bracket and connecting it to our dock station. So the lower microphone is installed. Now it's time to install the vibrate motor, which also left from the old housing but wasn't installed in it. It looks like that this vibrate motor is okay, and now we're gonna use it into this new housing for this new phone. installing this metal bracket as well. Now it's time to install the speaker into our new housing. First we need to install all these components, which protects our speaker from the dust and dirt. Now we're installing the speaker on its position. Now we're installing this metal bracket for the vibrate motor wire. It keeps this wire from being damaged and holds it into its position. Now connecting the vibrate motor to the motherboard and also connecting the whole dock station into the motherboard. The only thing we need to do is to install this one screw, which is located under the dock station and holds the vibrate motor on its position. So as we can see, everything installed, and now it's time to connect the dock station to the motherboard, and the lower part assembly is complete. So now it's time to install the battery. This time I will not use any components which are not authorized. We will use the adhesive stripes which are authorized by the manufacturer, which Apple does when it installs their batteries. So we will use these triple adhesive stripes. And now it's time to install the battery on its position. Everything looks very good, almost like new, joking. So as soon as the battery is installed, the housing assembly is complete. And now we need to connect our fully assembled LCD panel and check whether the phone is functional and all components are working. I'm switching the button, nothing happens because I have forgotten to connect the battery. So now as you can see, we can see the Apple logo, which means that phone starts. And now let's check the functionality of the phone. Let's check all the buttons, switch buttons, volume buttons, everything looks great. Of course we check the cameras. Both cameras are working. Of course we don't have the Touch ID in this phone because the motherboard was without the home button, but nevertheless it is fully operational. And now it's time to final assembly. So we need to install the metal brackets for the connectors of LCD panel and battery. This is the final process of assembling of our new phone. Please be sure to choose the screws of the appropriate length, otherwise you can damage your motherboard and make it non-functional. So the last thing we need to install is this metal bracket for the battery and lower dock station connector. Now everything is installed, and the only thing we need to do now is to clean all the fingerprints and other traces of the repairs in order to make all entrails look as authentic as it possible. And everything is done, it's time to close the phone to install the LCD screen on its position. I hope that everything will be fine because LCD screen and housing are non-original, non-genuine. But it looks like that everything is okay. And LCD screen has been installed properly. Now we're installing the two bottom screws. Removing the protective film and installing the tempered glass screen protector on our new screen. And this step finalizes our repairs for today. The only thing we need to do is to check whether everything is okay, and we can see battery has 100% health, and it looks that we are ready with this phone. So thank you for watching. We will have further restoration videos on our channel, but it is all for today. Thank you for watching and goodbye.